again, and welcome to my video, Alterations by Hand, adjusting an off-shoulder top to fit better. So my sister and I had the opportunity to go shopping at Maurice's recently, and one of the items that she picked out was this beautiful, I believe it's 100% rayon. It's a very light, flowy, summery, springtime, good for this season, this type of year, top. And I checked on the company's website, and if you are wanting to order something similar, I believe the item is called a Floral Ruffle Trim Cold Shoulder Top and it's from Maurice's. But one of the problems with it that she had was it was falling off her shoulders. It basically is an off-shoulder top, and it was hanging down to here on her, way off her shoulders, down her arm. And she didn't really find that comfortable. She didn't want to wear it like that. And she asked me if I could change it or modify it to fit her better. And our first idea, I believe her idea initially was she wanted to take it in here. But that wasn't going to work well because I'm going to show you this top up close now. So if you look at the way that it is constructed, there is this this outer layer, then there is this ruffle on top, but when you look to see how that's joined there is this I believe it's folded over into just I think it's a single fold bias tape, and that's sewn to cover the raw edges and keep it stable. It's practical, it makes sense. I think it's a good construction method choice there, but the problem with that is that creates a lot of bulk. So if I wanted to pleat it over like this, that would create like this that's quite thick, that's like this. That would be quite thick, and so that wouldn't end up pleating up very well. And so we were in a rush, and one of our ideas was basically, what if we put something from the top of the shoulder on this thin little spaghetti strap down to the top part of the off the shoulder part on the arm. And so I was trying to figure out, okay, what do I have that looks similar to that, that looks similar to this, that would go well with this particular shirt to make that work. And what I ended up having was, in our house, left over I think from a previous sewing project, I had this decorative, I guess I'd describe it as a decorative elastic, where it's got a stretchy part in the middle here with this very thin outside thing that when it's stretched out it looks pretty straight, but when the elastic contracts it turns into a pretty ruffle design. And I had some of this lying around the house from a previous project, and so we ended up just grabbing some of that and using that to make an element that is functional and helps to keep the shoulder, helps to keep the off the shoulder part more where my sister would prefer the placement to be, while also still looking like an intentional element of the garment, where it looks like it could feasibly be something that's a design choice instead of just something that was added after the fact. So yeah, that was our solution for it. And one of the challenges that I overcame while working on this project was, if you look here at these back of these straps here, this is adjustable, it slides around, and so I wanted the sides here to be able to move around here. I wanted it to be able to go up and down on where the shoulder is, so if she wants to adjust it based on what she's feeling that day, based on how much coverage she wants, etc. I made it so that the elastic could go up and down. So what I ended up doing for that is, when I folded it over, I didn't sew directly onto this little strap area. What I did is I after pinning it where I wanted it to be, I sewed below the strap on, so it created sort of a casing. And then what I ended up doing also was I figured out, okay, I wanted it folded under the extra elasticy stuff so it wouldn't fray, and then so I did that, cut off the excess, folded it under, and then sewed around here. And I'm pretty sure, I know that I did a lot of whip stitching, but I also combined like running stitches and back stitches just to wherever I thought would work, like whatever I thought would work best for this, because this is a combination of like a thicker stretchy part as well as some very thin stuff, and I was working like sometimes around edges, sometimes around multiple layers and stuff. So it was just, I basically combined different stitches wherever I felt it would be best there. And what that ended up doing was it created a top part of the strap that could, it could go through over the spaghetti strap. The spaghetti strap could go through it, so I could adjust it this way so I could hang off from different parts of her shoulder. And I thought that would add to the functionality. And then for this part, what I ended up doing is I tried to find, so I realized that there was a part right here that was like a little, there was like a seam line already in the fabric, and I was like, I'm gonna do my measurement based off of that, so that way I know, like, okay, this will be the same on both sides in terms of where the positioning was. And I also was like, okay, I don't want it to be directly on top of that because I don't want to be sewing to an area that's already super extra bulky. So I decided to sew this part of the ribbon at a different, like just, I think it was either a little bit ahead of or a little bit behind that. And that was one way to reduce bulk and also to make it like symmetrical on both sides. And if I remember right, I started, so basically I did it, like I did from the outside part of this ribbony. So I used the bias, the single fold bias tape that was already existing on the inside. And I used that as to what I would sew this part to, so that way it wouldn't be showing through on the outside or on the ruffle. It would just be attached to this single fold bias tape layer. And I felt that was a good way to secure it without adding like visible seam lines to the outside. And I do feel like it's stable. It shouldn't stretch out. Like it shouldn't it should hold up to wear and tear pretty well, is what I'm trying to convey. Yeah, and what I did is I sewed it on, I think it was like I don't know if it's like technically a whip stitch or like a stab stitch or something else, but I did like, this is a pin, but like I went like this through. Hopefully that gives you an idea initially. And then after that stitch was done, like I basically figured, okay, how long do I want this to be to fold under, tucked it under, sewed around. And then I also, there were some parts like right here where the fabric of the trim, the stretch elastic ruffle trim was a little bit like thin. I thought it was gonna get stretched out. Like this part here, when I was sewing it, created like some areas where it was like the weave wasn't quite right. I was afraid that it would need reinforcement, so I ended up doing some stitches, just like weaving in some threads through there to try and like take away some of the strain there, to hopefully provide for longevity for the garment. So that I think that's what I would say. Those are the steps that I did for this alteration. That was entirely done by hand, because oftentimes it's just easier to do things by hand, and I'm not having to work on I can only sew in flat straight lines. This allows me to work more with like 3 dimensions and stuff, which sometimes is nicer when working on basically an already finished garment that already exists. And other things that I did were I unpicked like the neck tag here and the side seam. The side seam, thankfully, it wasn't sewn through, like added into the serging, so I was able to take that tag that was there out, which is nice. I like doing that. I don't like the process of removing the tags. I just prefer to wear garments without tags. And I am assuming that my sister feels the same way. I didn't bother to ask her first, but I know that she likes to cut tags out of like necklines and stuff sometimes, so I figured it was fine. And I also, one thing that I would say is kind of a warning to me with this garment was there are a lot of like loose little threads sticking out where it's like whoever the seamstress is possibly just didn't have time to clip the loose threads and stuff. So that to me is like, suggests like, okay, this might have been hastily done. Like, so I'd be a little bit concerned about, okay, does that mean like that this might not be the best of quality? Like, I'm a little bit concerned as to this might fall apart a little bit easily based on just like things like right here. Like this is a thread hanging out that I just didn't get around to weaving in. Like, there's so many of those where it's like, it is what it is. So I'm hoping that like the edges, like the lack of care around the finishing of the edges doesn't signify anything worse and is just like an outwards easy to fix thing like that. I hope that it doesn't mean that there are any like unfinished seams, etc., because that are things that like that I'd have to like go through and do like more heavy like fixing up seam lines later on, because that level of maintenance is annoying. Yeah, and then I'll put this back onto the mannequin so you can see again. And so yeah, hopefully, like if you can see here, like it holds the elastic holds the off the shoulder part all the way up to like, it holds up to like here, so it's still just off the shoulder, whereas before it was like hanging down to like more like here, where it's like that's not really an off the shoulder top anymore, that's more of an off the arm top, and that was like not quite what my sister was wanting. So I think that this fix is going to end up working well for her, and I'm hopeful for the longevity of the garment. One thing that I would say is like if I was to redo something later, I'm like, I don't necessarily know how I feel about this trim because it's pretty, but again, there's this very transparent, like decorative part that it's like this, the weave of that area, like the threads are so far apart that it's like I would be concerned about those like tearing or breaking easily and unraveling. So that is one con about using this type of like fine decorative edge, like fine decorative edged like elastic for these strap things, or these additional straps. But it does look cute, so I'm happy with how it turned out. And thank you for listening to me explain like the alterations that I did and the reasons that I made the choices I did. And I hope that this gives you inspiration, like if you ever want to make clothing fit you better, or like if you want to do like more hand sewing and stuff. I hope that this gives you inspiration, and I hope that you have a great spring and that you have a great day. Thank you. Bye.